50 years ago, my grandmother was told, you will be able to make dinner in 3 minutes. You're gonna take the food, you're gonna put it in this magic box, and it's gonna come out ready to eat. So my question to you is, did that come true? So you think, yes, technically it did come true. Well, if that's the case, then why do we have the largest kitchens in history? Why do we have television networks devoted to cooking? Why do we continue to still cook? Well, you see, the technology came true, but the way the culture interacted with that technology did not play out the same way. So as we want to look to the future and all these new and emerging technologies, we can't ignore how culture and people interact with that technology. Part of my job as a professor is to look to the future and try to forecast some of these emerging technologies and how businesses will engage with them. But I don't want you to think that I'm a fortune teller. I also can't predict the future, but I can try to help forecast what these trends are. The way we understand the future is by understanding the technology, but we look to the past for similar examples to see how companies adopted them, how people adopted them, how the markets moved, and that's the way we predict or forecast how technologies will be received. So we're going to take this method and put it to education. What is the future of education? What are the emerging technologies in education? So let's look to the past. This is what a classroom looked like 100 years ago. And this is what a classroom looks like today. Hasn't changed that much. But you may say, oh, well, we have screens now. We have new technologies. Well, guess what? You can see here in 1934, they had screens as well. So education has not changed. Let's look at some other options. The telephone. What did the telephone look like 100 years ago? Now, the phone in your pocket looks so much different. Technology changes. What did the car look like 100 years ago? The Model T Ford, and now look at our electric semi-autonomous vehicles that we have today. Technology has changed, but I would argue that education has not changed at the same rate that other industries have. And so as educators, this is a really important thing, that we have to figure out how do we leverage technology to accomplish our educational mission. So what we're gonna look at today is how do we understand the technical trends and separate them from the fads. If we think back to this in the 80s, both of these pictures were made at the same time. I'm glad we don't have the 80s pants in this type of an outfit today. But I am thankful that I can wear a suit and feel comfortable, and that is what we would say is a true trend versus the fads that come and go. So let's apply this to technology. Did anyone ever try the specs that were able from Snap? This was a pretty interesting and fun device. I used it a couple of times, but really never made a use of it. Once the marketing hype was past, it was pretty much over. But let's compare that to the Apple phone. When Steve Jobs launched the Apple phone, it was groundbreaking. It changed everyone's user interface and what they thought mobile internet could be. It totally changed how we interact with the world around us and the world outside and past our bounds. That has stuck around for 15 plus years. And so the iPhone has been a great technological trend that has continued. Well, this is about product development. This is not about me just standing up here talking. So let's workshop this for a little bit. Let's start with a how might we statement. So we've already learned this, but how might we leverage emerging technologies to solve our company's biggest challenge? So I want you to think right now, what is that biggest challenge? I want you to think right now, write it down, and then we're gonna do a brainstorming exercise where we work through and create a bunch of ideas in a very short amount of time using the how might we statement. I wanna bring up this idea of a specific title we've kept mentioning over and over again. This idea of a prompt engineer, someone who types into a generative AI chatbot and gets the message that they want. And that is a really important skill. But why do we call them an engineer? Let me give you a story. So in Canada in 1918, an iron bridge collapsed due to an engineering failure. And what the Canadian engineering community did was they made sure that all of their people were trained well and that they were focused on taking this obligation for human life to focus on details and to check each other's work. And they all receive, even today, engineers receive an iron ring that they wear that reminds them of that obligation. And throughout history, when they were drawing on papers, that iron would leave a mark and it would show that a true engineer had worked on this. So maybe prompt engineering is not really engineering, but it is prompt creation, and there's an important point to it. But now I want to transition to the idea of our real AI engineers. We have machine learning engineers, we have computer vision engineers, we have all of these people who are building out this AI content. And we want them to think about human life, about following an ethical procedure, about checking each other's work, checking behind each other, and to be focused on the details. So I would encourage us to move as an industry to say, when we use the term engineer, what we mean is someone who is thoughtful, who is focused, and wants to do the best for humanity.